Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Some spicy words exchanged a couple of days ago between TJHaLy and Drazah, players on arguably very different trajectories going into the upcoming season, but nonetheless some trash talk was going down. TJ reckons that he's absolutely going to destroy Drazah the next time he plays him on LAN. We'll see if that's even possible when the season begins based on what the rosters might end up as being. Very much enjoy to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, I thought a great storyline here that was going down again. I kind of forgot this happened so many years ago, but Killer Sloss, right, the chosen one, the inaugural 2013 Call of Duty World Champion, says, whoa, and then Tally and Hoagie, now I let his sub, now I gotta let his sub, like, you gotta be kidding me. He wasn't at all happy, and the flank managed to find this tweet up from 2014, when, you know, he basically says the same thing again, or like he wasn't a happy man, so, yeah, nothing's changed. He's still beefing with, you know, food companies and stuff, which is just fantastic. Now, we talked about the Mount Rushmore earlier today, and it seems like Crim is still on the grind with FaZe. Now, I don't think the FaZe kind of sim racing team did particularly well here, but it looks like for the new season, because I think the World Championship just ended, it was held in Saudi Arabia or something at the GamersVIII tournament, I think is what was going on. I think they've changed out a large part of their roster, but Crim is still here. Here he is, Ian Porter, number 6, of course, 06 for Crim 6, so pretty nice. I think he was going to have another number like 38 or something, just because it was the amount of championships he's won, I think is what he was going for, but now it's 06, so I guess that's pretty nice as well. Maybe it was 06 the entire time, I kind of forget, but there was a little bit in that. But yeah, they've made some roster changes, but Crim is still there, I guess, for the upcoming season, so they're not getting rid of him just yet. I thought that maybe Crim was, you know, kind of like just have that 1 year and decide, all right, that's enough for me, 1 season of competing in this, but he's going to go again. He's going to try and get more competitive, and I mean, look, while he's enjoying himself and FaZe are jetting him across the world, then I guess there's nothing bad to be said about that. Thought this is pretty crazy as well, actually, that Dashy last night, because there's lots of potential drama and rostermania going down right now on the Valorant side, and well, Dashy was actually teaming yesterday up in Valorant ranked play here and stuff, so this wasn't streamed, I don't believe, but he got this on the screenshot, of course, with tens. We've got Dashback and we've got SenZ here, and this is basically Zekken, so one of the other players on that team. So I mean, yeah, like all of those top Valorant guys know about Dashy, and yeah, this is pretty impressive stuff, I'm not gonna lie here from Dashy. I don't know that he's mentioned in the past that if there's one other esport that he would try and go pro in at some point, it probably would be Val, and he does play a lot of it, obviously, and that's always a talking point at some point during the regular Call of Duty season. But yeah, I thought this was really interesting and kind of impressive, to be fair, as these guys are contemplating. There's some roster moves going down there right now on the Valorant side that I'm trying to wrap my head around exactly what's happening as it stands. Now let's talk about Drazah, because we saw that he won, as probably you could have expected, with aBeZy and Aiden and Rated, that S&D tournament that went down just a couple of days ago. We talked about it in yesterday morning's video, and in the final they took down Envoy, and Drazah was making the point of, you know, like, I've beaten you once already, and then when the season begins, FaZe Drazah versus Ultra Envoy is going to be rather exciting. Now, Drazah says, I stopped shooting, it's postseason, you can go anywhere but P1, which seems to be just Drazah's preferred option pretty much all the time, and even Simp says the same thing. But I thought this was kind of interesting, like Simp says, oh, it's your bread and butter. How about be caught on LSELA? That's also your bread and butter. Shall I keep it going and reveal all of your key spots? Chill, bro, I'm saving it for next year. So it does raise a little bit of a question to me. Is there going to be any maps that carry over, I suppose, into the new game? We think that all 16, well, we do know now, it's been confirmed that all 16 MWIII maps from 2009 are coming back to the new game. But what about any maps that we just had in Modern Warfare 2? What about Fortress? What about LSELA? Like, you know, I don't want it to happen, but, you know, like a hotel or something, I wouldn't mind if they bring it back, because the rumor is that a lot of the guns are going to get carried over, potentially the Vaznev, the TAC 56 or whatever. Like, those guns are going to be in the new game as well as some additional ones. So maybe it's not outrageous to think that some of the maps we just played might be played on again, because I think I was even hearing people say that Scrapyard was in COD Ghost, wasn't it? I don't know if it was in COD Ghost at launch. I don't know if it was a DLC map they added. I think it might have been a DLC map they added, but it was never played in competitive, right, in Ghost. They never really tried to play it. So there was a question as to whether those like old school MWIII maps for competitive that were played back then are actually any good at all, especially with the way the game currently plays. So that's one of the key concerns that players have at the moment. So maybe there is some optimism that we get some of the MWIII maps from last year back, although I'm not necessarily sure that's a good idea, to be honest. One game that did have good maps, of course, was Black Ops 3, and that's what a lot of the guys have been playing lately. Initially, as soon as the off-season began, it was a lot of Black Ops Cold War, and now, you know, we're seeing a lot of Black Ops 3 gameplay, and I think absolutely for good and justifiable reasons. Just before, really, the MWIII tourney went down a couple of days ago, we had Shotzzy. I mean, Drazah every day. As soon as I wake up every day, I have a look at what Drazah's been up to, and he's tweeting out right then and there for, you know, any any Black Ops 3 ChaLy can get his hands on, he's going for. Like, I gotta respect the commitment of this guy. It's like when iLLeY won the World Championship in 2020, and later in the day, immediately was tweeted out for Charles. Like, that's just the grind that, you know, the guys like Drazah have. And one of the reasons, in fairness, why he's found his spot on FaZe this upcoming season, and despite all the friction and drama that could go down with aBeZy and co, they seem to be in a very promising position going forward. Now, TJ and Drazah were having a bit of a back and forth, and of course they get on to some degree, but still the trash talk I thought was pretty interesting, that TJ seems to think that Drazah is a bit of an onliner, and come to a LAN environment, it's going to be rather different. TJ is known for getting a bit better, I think, on LAN. The numbers don't necessarily play that out this season. That might be just more of a Vegas thing, to be fair, and we'll see that in a second. But Drazah, actually, the opposite seems to be true from what TJ's saying, based on the stats from the most recent season.
Yeah, you don't have any issues either. At 5 every time you shitter.
I what?
I said you don't have any issues either. You wait till 5 to play.
Dude, I want to play Drazah on LAN so bad. This guy loves online, bro.
Oh, what? Please play me on LAN, shit,
Holy
sir.
f***, you love
Bro,
online.
I would bust to play on LAN. You guys don't know it. You guys don't
You
know.
You can have your little god
I would
squad too, bro.
Bro, I would bust if I didn't have to play 140 fucking thing and 100
Wait,
on
what is
fucking...
he saying? For a LAN match?
Oh my god, I'd bust.
Teacher's spitting shit.
Let's go play Drazah on LAN again. Like, oh my god.
Yes, please.
I'll go get a world channel. Run your shit, little just
No, you're actually horrible.
yeah, yeah.
I'm not gonna lie,
You didn't
though.
want to. It was the highlight of your career.
I run both of
You
you.
not care that I beat you, bro? You're nothing, bro.
Bro, Drazah's doing water Minecraft
You're
strats
nothing
while
to
flaming
I'm
everyone.
nothing.
If people want to make money on this shit, they
So both of these players in a very interesting spot for next season as it stands, right? And TJ's been a player for years now that's kind of felt on the cusp somewhat of still being in the league and not being anymore. He was on Boston for that little bit of time, then of course on Vegas Legion for this most recent season. And he's kind of been in a boat where he was on OpTic a few years ago, 2019. Things have changed around massively for TJ behind the scenes. Even he was on OpTic Gaming Los Angeles, I suppose, right, going into franchising. And it's interesting that I was looking back the other day, that OpTic team from Black Ops 4 with Scump and Crim and Karma and Dashy, and then TJ was there, and I was like, yeah, it's kind of funny that TJ was on that team, all things considered, but you know, he was definitely justifying his spot at the time. The last couple of seasons hasn't quite been the case. Known as a great player in Search and Destroy, I think there's no doubt about that. We know from watching any of these, you know, Charles and stuff, TJ's always getting involved and always getting picked to play because, you know, one of the best Search and Destroy players of all time, to be quite honest. These were his full season numbers most recently on Vegas, had a 1.06 in Search over the year. Not the best first bloods, but you know, solid damage per round, solid kills per round, especially on a Vegas team that wasn't, they were okay in that mode, but they weren't great by any means. TJ was one of the standouts, but it's the respawn modes where he gets a lot of flack, and I can totally understand it. This was his full season card, and this was his online only card. So, you know, just comparing some of the numbers, a little bit better in Search and Destroy actually, right? His first blood rates here online was pretty promising, but you know, especially as an SMG, one of the first guys in, you're not expected to have a great first blood rate unless you're like Pred or something, or you know, where they just, or aBeZy just have ridiculous first blood stats. But this was online only. Even if anything though, the KDs in the respawn modes get somewhat worse compared to on LAN, slightly different at the very least. And this is Drazah's card over the course of the season, so just trying to do a little bit of a fact check here on whether what TJ is saying is actually true or not, because if Drazah is an onliner, you might not expect to see these numbers, because actually Drazah's online performances this most recent season, now, you've got to say, there is some LA Thieves bias involved here, as in LA Thieves aren't going to be great online because they play out of LA, and therefore the entire team you'd expect to get somewhat better on LAN, and Drazah did, especially in Search and Destroy, though, it's got to be said. I mean, the Search and Destroy numbers from Drazah, look at the first blood difference, and kills per round especially was purple in his role in the entire league, on LAN, and also over the course of the full season, with a 90 overall. So, it's interesting when you see this kind of little bit of beef going down, just because the players are in very different boats as it stands. Drazah has got the dream move, he got the offer from OpTic, he turned it down, right? How many players get the chance to turn down an OpTic offer, let alone actually go ahead and do it, and then go, of course, to FaZe instead. And we've seen aBeZy seems pretty happy that they're making the decision that they're currently making, and Drazah on paper, especially in the Search and Destroy department, should make that team, frankly, quite monstrous next season. TJ finds himself in a rather more tricky spot, right? I mean, I was looking even back at this I saw the other day. This is the OpTic Gaming Los Angeles team I mentioned. The funny thing is, I think after this tourney, they made some changes. I think Dashy was gone right after this one, and they swapped a couple of things around, and then they made the finals of the next tournament. Like, it was actually kind of crazy, but I can't believe this team even existed, right? It feels like a fever dream, that whole 2020 season. So this is one tournament, actually. This is a whole tournament, the Paris Legion home series. I'm guessing they just played 2 series here and probably got bodied in both of them. But, I mean, Chino had a 0.2 in Search and Destroy here. Like, obviously that isn't representative of Chino's ability or skill level or anything like that, but it wasn't a pretty tournament. I mean, Dashy, this is probably Dashy's worst ever Lion Man card here, right? He had a 0.6 and a 0.6 in both Hardpoint and Surge. It wasn't great, right, for that event that they played, and he wasn't on a role that he was comfortable with, and he didn't like the team, and it was an absolute mess. But at least TJ here, like, he's still at a 1.4 in Surge, and this is kind of what you can expect from TJ. He might be getting cooked in the respawns, but you know he's going to give you some good Search and Destroy action, and that's where it kind of comes to the present day as to what these teams are going to do. We have some teams that, you know, organizations locked in. There might be more by the time this video is going live. We think we know what Miami Heretics are doing, but that might not be confirmed for some time. As I say, it might be confirmed by the time this video is live, depending on timing of things. But this is what we think is going on, and it does feel like TJ's going to struggle a little bit to really get a good spot this season again. Ravens, it depends. If they move to Charlotte or whatever, they might go away from the UK thing. I don't think they will. I don't think they should. But you would think that in the same way that Miami Heretics are forming the Spanish team, you'd think London might do the same for the British team again. So then you've got Vegas again, and you've got Gorillas. But in the place of, it'll be interesting to see what TJ decides to do, because if he goes down to Challengers again, as he I think did one time before, he did get back in the Pro League for sure, but you know, he's been one of those players that's on the cusp. But his Search and Destroy is always kind of somewhat good enough to make him a viable candidate, because if you're a team like Gorillas or a team like Vegas, and if you want to have, Gorillas won an event, so let's not forget, they actually won an event, Major 2 during Vanguard. But if you want to do that, you need great Search and Destroy. If you're a team on that ability, if you can go on like a 12 S&D win streak like Gorillas did, you can win a tournament with that. It's possible, or at least make a finals. So, and this is where the teams, if you're Gorillas or Vegas or something or London, you've got to realize that it's not really going to be the respawns that are necessarily your strengths, at least in my opinion. If you do want to try and make some deep runs, you've got to try and ensure the Search and Destroy is good, and that's why TJ has been like such a consistent signing over the last few years. Yes, he might get cooked in respawns, and you do need to have someone alongside him that can slay, like in fairness they had with Standy at the end of last season on Vegas, where online Standy was pretty good and they were looking good. On LAN, not quite the same story. But if Gorillas are going to go for Clay Attach +2, there's a chance they look at TJ there. I don't think it would be the best pick necessarily, and it might just leave Vegas again. And then you've got Temp pretty much saying that he doesn't want to go back to Vegas and take the offer. He'd prefer to go to Challengers, grind it out and get a spot on a better team. Will TJ do that? Does he want to do that? So some questions there, right? But I thought it was interesting to see the drama really between Drazah and TJ on this one, just because, you know, as players, they're in a rather different position, it's got to be said at the moment, going into the new year. And just to close out the video here with the aBeZy COD tier list, he comes out with this, and I thought this was very, I mean, he doesn't even have a D tier one, he just chunks everything down to the F tier. So in the F tier, he's got Vanguard, MWIII, and MW2. So, you know, no respect for the recent titles for sure, and I absolutely get it. C tier, then he's got Ghosts, World at War, Black Ops 1. I always feel like Black Ops 1 gets slightly disrespected in this list, but I think that's probably my personal bias speaking, to be fair. Then we've got MW3 and, you know, World War 2. Even World War 2 being this high is a little bit surprising, but I don't think it's a bad call by any means. Then Infinite Warfare, and then we get to the A, and the S tier is obviously Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, which as far as I'm concerned is bang on the money, and I would just have Black Ops 1 like in the A tier personally, and I would maybe move something else away. He's got COD 4, MW2, Cold War as well. Cold War I don't think was A tier personally. I know that aBeZy's going to say that it is because he was absolutely fried on that game, but I don't think Cold War was quite as good as the other track games. This is my personal opinion, but Advanced Warfare up as well is nice to see. So pretty good stuff, I thought, and I like some of the reaction here from Simp as well, because it was basically saying that Black Ops 3 wasn't just the COD peak, but it was just like straight up existence peak. It was just a good time to be alive back then, and maybe things have regressed somewhat in the last couple of years, but very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.